Billy paused, trying to decide whether or not to believe him. I don't think you'd be wanting me dead, anyway. Know what set me off on my prospecting? My own daddy died. God, I love that man. When he died, I just went and did as I pleased. Happens to a lot of us. Jean and Speck, and DeRice, and me, and maybe you. How about that? Wouldn't that be a kick, if you got your wish and I died and all it did was... He trailed off and stared. But enough of that morbid talk, he smiled. When a man's done his life's work and done it well, Jesper, he can get into his retirement a happy man. Jas snorted laughter. Billy could gas about retirement all he wanted, but they both knew the old man would be definitely, infinitely happier on the outside, prospecting. Is that what this is to you? Retirement? Came a little earlier than you expected, didn't it? Billy smiled that warm, killer smile again. Did it? For long moments they gazed at each other across the table and through the imaginary fence. Billy unfolded his hands and rested his fists on the table. Jas could see new prison tats on his father's knuckles, fresh from the looks of them, raw. Love spelled out on his right fist, FEAR spelled on the left. Nice ink, Jas said. A shrug. Brand new. Glad you like 'em. Look here. You ain't got to worry about anyone killing your daddy in here, Jasper. Ain't gonna happen. I guarantee it. I got respect in here. You talked about that pecking order. Well, it don't peck me. They save that for the real bastards. It's not like I hurt kids. Jas bristled. That liar. That hypocrite. He was probably giving Billy exactly what he wanted, but he couldn't help it. He didn't care what kind of mind game Billy Dent was playing. He couldn't let a comment like that go. No kids? What about George Harper? George Harper. Billy stared at the ceiling as if trying to place the name, which was bull because Billy had a photographic memory and total recall. Oh, right, he said after a moment or two of pretense. Hell, son, that kid looked 19, 20 easy. You saw the pictures. You know he didn't look 15. He shook his head, clearly pleased with the reaction he'd managed to provoke in Jas. They grow up so fast, you know. Like you did, Jasper boy. You ever think of having kids, Jasper? Giving me a grandbaby, something for me to live for? I know I got a bunch of life sentences, but with science the way it is, hell, maybe I'll live 'em all. What do you think? The idea of having children nauseated Jas. To pass down the genetic mistake that was his grandmother's madness, his father's madness, his own madness? No, that would not happen. He would not create the next generation's Billy Dent. I bet I know what you're thinking, Jasper, Billy said, his voice low and seductive and knowing. It was a perfect sociopath's voice, and Jas hated it because it was so like his own. He'd heard himself use it with teachers who needed to be persuaded of things. With G. William and Melissa Hoover. Hell, he might as well just admit it, with everyone. It was as natural as blinking, as natural as falling asleep. You're thinking you ain't gonna give the world no more, Dents. I hear that, I understand. But it ain't always your decision. You got a little piece of tail you like to bang? Handsome boy like you, all silver tongue. Those little girls don't stand a chance, Jasper. They line up for a taste of your dick, don't they? Don't they? Jas shook his head before he could stop himself. Damn it. He'd sworn to himself that he would give his father neither information nor satisfaction, and now, with one movement, he'd surrendered both. You ain't looking at the line, then. That's good. You got one girl. One special girl. That's good, Jasper. Men like us, we like our consistency. You know what I mean? Fewer surprises that way. You plow a lot of fields, you never know where there's going to be a stone. You stick to one field, you get to know it. You know the stones and the ruts and the pits. But here's the thing, Jasper. I bet you're a nice, responsible kid, 'cause I raised you that way. But are you always the one buying the rubbers? Or maybe she's on that pill. 'Cause you can't always trust 'em, Jasper. You look at them rubbers real close like, see? You watch her take that pill, Jasper. Hell, he roared with laughter. How you think you was born? Oh, yeah, that's right, Billy went on, leaning forward, leaning in so far that Jas thought for sure that he must have crossed the imaginary fence. He must have. But the door stayed closed, and no one came in to rescue him. You were the biggest surprise of my life, Jasper. I was so angry at your mama at first. Won't tell you the things I considered doing to her because they might disturb you, boy, and I ain't going to do that. I know how sensitive you are. But then you were born, Jasper. You came sliding out easy as you pleased, didn't cause your mama any pain, hardly any labor. Just come sliding right out practically into my arms. My boy, my son, my future. So I forgave your mama for what she done, for her deception. What did you do to Mom? Jas asked, his voice strangled, his throat tight. He didn't mean to ask it. He didn't want to ask it, but he was helpless, wrapped up in Billy Dent's spell, just like all of Billy's other victims. For surely Jas was as much a victim as the rest of them. Surely that was true. Do? What did I do to your mother? A shrug. Nothing. Just like cutting. Good boy. What did you make me do? Jas whispered. Billy grinned. What did you make me do? Did you make me kill my mother? Billy laughed. Don't you remember? But he didn't. He couldn't. His memory, his poor, abused, fragmented memory. He could remember Billy skinning Rusty, could remember the quicklime lessons, could remember so much horror, but couldn't remember the most important thing of all. He couldn't remember do it. Cut. The knife. It was Mom. I cut Mom with the knife. Billy made me. Jas felt the room spinning around him. This was crazy. A mistake, a huge one. He was insane to have come here. Billy Dent was the master of manipulation, the king of not just the penitentiary, but also of the psychic spaces between father and son. He was lord of Jas's own mind. After all, hadn't Billy built that mind? Hadn't he sired Jas, raised him, shaped and guided him like any father would? Wasn't Jas his father's creature? Billy. Billy in the past urging Jas with the knife. Billy in the present grinning still, now whispering, What's her name, Jasper? Tell dear old Dad your little pussy's name. I want to think of how happy you are, and I need to have a name to go with it. Tell me her name. Connie, Jas thought, but he would not let himself say it. He couldn't sully her name by letting it anywhere near Billy Dent's ears and brain. He couldn't bear the thought of Billy Dent knowing that name, much less speaking it out loud. Tell me her name, son. Connie. And that brought to mind what she'd said before, about how he didn't have to be his dad, how he could rise above his own upbringing. Sons aren't their fathers, not the good, not the bad. Sons get second chances. You don't have to be what your dad is. You don't have his eyes, and you don't have to have his life. I'm a virgin, he told Billy. Billy snorted with disgust and leaned back. Jas felt as though the room had suddenly been flooded with pure oxygen. He could breathe so much more easily now. No, you ain't. You gonna lie to me? We ain't got nothing to discuss, Billy said. Jas didn't care what Billy thought. It was a lie. It didn't matter. What mattered was that it had broken the spell, made it possible for Jas to think again. It had put power back on Jas's side of the imaginary line. Fence. I'm sorry, he said with as much contrition as he could muster. I shouldn't have lied. I'm not a virgin. Her name's Heidi, Linda, Ray, Dolores, Juanita, Chelsea, Tanya. Tanya? Billy frowned. Killed me a Tanya once. Perfect little titties. Fake redhead. Hate that. I remember, Jas said. I remember the trophy. Please, Billy leaned forward again. Tell me. Leather gloves, Jas said. Kid gloves. So brown they were almost red. They were so smooth and soft. I remember imagining that was what a woman felt like. Billy chuckled. You got my memory, that's for sure, Jasper. But you got your mama's way with words. Damn, I miss her. I used to put them on. In the rumpus room. I never told you because I thought you'd be mad. Playing with your daddy's toys? I would wear the gloves and touch my cheek, my lips. I would imagine that's what it would feel like. To be with a woman, Billy finished, his eyes dancing. And now? Now that you've been with a woman? Is that what it was like? No. It's better. Better. But not as good as it can be. I know. I remember that from what you taught me. Sometimes when I'm with Tanya, I want to see what you told me about the fear. It'll come, son, Billy whispered. In time, it'll come. I promise you. They stared at each other across the table for long, long moments. Jas wondered how long he could keep it up. How long could he pretend to be in Billy's thrall? How long could he pretend to be aroused by these thoughts? Worst of all, was he pretending? Could anyone really fake this? Anyway, Jasper, Billy said, breaking the suspense, I'm glad you're getting your dick wet. I should have brought you a girl a long time ago. That was neglectful of me, and I apologize for it. For that and nothing else. That's fine. What brings you to see dear old Dad, kiddo? Billy leaned as far back as he could, given that he was tethered to the table and to his own ankle chain. Somehow he managed to look relaxed and at peace. I raised you to think of yourself first, last, and always, so you gotta want something from me. I do. Spit it out. Was this the right thing to do? He'd managed to build up a rapport of sorts with Billy over the past few minutes. As soon as he asked for help in catching the impressionists, wouldn't Billy realize he'd been had? Wouldn't he, enraged, lunge for Jas across the table, imaginary fences be damned? Well, maybe, and in that case Jas would see his father beaten to within an inch of his life, so it was really a win-win scenario. I need your help to find someone. Really? Billy actually seemed interested. Who? This might sound a little strange, so hear me out, okay? I'm sort of trying to find a serial killer. Jas had expected either a burst of laughter or a snarl of rage. He got neither. Billy's grin just widened. You don't say. Do you watch the news in here at all? Do you know about the Impressionists? The Impressionists? Billy said the name slowly, drawling it out to infinite syllables. Can't say as I do. He's copying your first kills right down to the drain cleaner, right down to the initials of the victims. Jas watched his father carefully for his reaction, but Billy's face remained placid, sociopathically still. Billy nodded slowly. Why are you looking for this gentleman? To save my soul, if I have one in the first place. Honestly, I'm helping the cops. Now would come the rage. Interesting, Billy mused. Very interesting. That's all you have to say? I'm trying to help the cops catch someone like you, and you think it's interesting? Nah, that part's boring. Totally natural for you to be checking out the other side of the equation. Perfect sense. Hell, I spent 3 weeks at the police academy when I was a little older than you, Jasper. I get it. Oh. Jas forced himself to show nothing but casual, impassive interest, while inside he fumed. Billy had been researching the cops, trying to learn their secrets. Jas was doing something else entirely, trying to figure out how a killer's mind worked, trying to figure out if it was the same as his own. What's interesting is that you ain't telling me the whole truth. You ain't doing this to help the cops. You don't give a damn about them. You're doing this for you, to figure yourself out, to see what makes you tick. No. More important, Jasper, you're doing this because you have to. Dog gotta hunt, son. You go find yourself a 3-legged bird dog and then take it out hunting, and you watch it fall over trying to point out the bird. It'll happen every time. Damn sure you're a hunter, born and bred. You got the scent. You want your prey, boy? You want to go prospecting? You need it? No. Billy said, it waits inside you. It lurks, you see. It waits and it pads around like a big cat. When you least expect it, it comes up behind you. So don't kid yourself. It's there all along. It's there. It's just waiting is all.